Get out of this house. I'm marrying my lover. My husband and I had been in a Cold War, with only $600 a month he could freely spend. Most of the household expenses had been paid by me. One day, I noticed my husband smirking at his phone, wearing an inappropriate grin. It turned out to be a picture of a young woman who looked like a model. Naturally, I confronted him, asking who she was, but he brushed me off and walked away. Frustrated, but maintaining my composure, I continued with my daily routine until he shouted at me to leave. His past behavior had already chipped away at any love I had for him, so the shock didn't hit me as hard as it should have. But I couldn't let things end like that. The idea of not seeing some sort of payback against a man who had taken advantage of me was inconceivable. I decided to hire an investigator to dig up his secrets, and planned my revenge for a moment when everyone important to him would be present. My name is Julia Andrews, 29 years old, at an age where marriage is constantly on my mind. I work in the sales department of a top firm and dedicate myself to expanding the company's influence. Reflecting on my life, I realized I'd had terrible luck with men. Starting in high school, every time an attractive guy confessed his interest, we'd date, but it would soon end with him losing interest. The pattern was predictable. I'd give too much and things would end just as quickly. By the time I turned 30, I thought I might never get married. I assumed I'd live my life as a lonely office worker. But then, I met someone in my company's sales department who, though not classically handsome, had a kind face. He wasn't the type to usually catch my attention, but as we talked more, I felt drawn to his gentle demeanor. He was different from the guys I'd dated before. For the first time, I felt like I discovered what genuine sincerity was. Apparently, he was interested in me too. One day, we ran into each other outside the office, and he shyly asked me out. Even though he was 3 years older than me, his awkwardness was endearing, and I said yes immediately. Unlike the handsome men I used to date, this felt new and refreshing. I was surprised by how much happiness a sincere man could bring. On our first anniversary, he spoke up. I may not earn much, but my love for you is unmatched. His heartfelt declaration floored me, making me fall even deeper in love. However, there was one concern. He would frequently ask me for money. Other than that, everything seemed perfect, but his financial dependence worried me. I'm sorry, I promised to pay you back. But he never did. After several instances, I finally had to ask, Can I ask you something difficult? Are you having financial problems? He fell silent, his expression serious. Actually, my parents failed in their business, and I'm burdened with their debt. His parents had even disappeared, leaving him to deal with everything alone. Feeling deep sympathy, I continued to support him, buying things for him and covering our meals. On our second anniversary, he surprised me with a modest ring and proposed. It's not an expensive ring, but I saved up bit by bit. Will you marry me? I was overjoyed and agreed with tears streaming down my face. I thought life with him would be perfect, and we bought a small house and started our married life. But soon, cracks began to appear. While I continued to pay for most expenses before marriage, it became even more pronounced afterward. The financial burden fell almost entirely on me, and he continued to ask for money more frequently. The TV's outdated, and I need new clothes. Can you help? He took the money as if it were nothing, claiming it was necessary for work. Despite having a separate account for the mortgage, he never deposited a penny. What's going on with the mortgage payments? I'm covering everything. This can't go on. For the first time, I confronted him, realizing I had never truly known how much he earned. Reluctantly, he admitted, I barely have $600 a month after paying off my debt. I was stunned. His income was no better than a college student's part-time earnings. When I showed my disbelief, he retorted angrily, Don't look at me like that. My parents' bankruptcy cost me my future. For the first time, I saw him angry, his face twisted in rage. I'm not looking down on you, I tried to say, but he interrupted. Yes, you are. You went to a top university, got a great job, and everything's been easy for you. He stormed out, leaving me to process our crumbling relationship. But I wasn't ready to end things without trying to fix them. If you study for qualifications, your income can improve. I'll help, but only if you're serious, I said tearfully. He paused, turned back and responded, I'll try. I've been spoiled, but I do want to earn more. Despite our argument, I hoped we could turn things around. But I was wrong. His behavior didn't change. He claimed to be studying for qualifications, but never even bought the textbooks. He spent his days lazily and frequently changed jobs, never staying long enough to build a career. His income remained stagnant. I started losing hope, thinking about ending our marriage more than once. But each time I brought it up, he softened, speaking in the gentlest voice possible. I know you're right, Julia. You have every reason to be upset, but I am trying, even if it doesn't seem like it. Just give me a bit more time. His voice would always reach that vulnerable part of my heart, shaking my resolve. The cycle repeated itself, keeping me tethered to him for nearly 10 years. Aside from money and work issues, he was my comfort. His kind aura made even the simplest conversations a balm for my stress. But as our 10th wedding anniversary approached, his behavior changed drastically. He started coming home later and later, sometimes after midnight. You're home late again. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Is work really taking this long? His face lit up as if he was proud of something. I found my path. I'm taking programming classes. Tech is booming, and once I master this, I'll be in high demand. I'll make it up to you, Julia. I felt a glimmer of hope. If he truly committed to programming, our financial future could improve. But things soon took a suspicious turn. Midnight arrivals became routine, and sometimes he didn't come home until the morning. Isn't it odd that you're out so late for classes? I asked one night. Programming schools don't usually have such late hours. His mood darkened immediately. Why don't you support me? I'm finally motivated, and all you do is criticize. Late nights means I'm working hard. He muttered complaints, blaming me for doubting him. The instructor is passionate, and I learn best in long, focused sessions. Why can't you be happy for me? I bit back my retort, wanting to keep the peace, but his story didn't make sense. Despite claiming he was devoted to learning, he never touched his laptop at home. He spent all his time on his phone, smirking at something that clearly amused him. What's so funny? I finally asked, unable to hide my irritation. I'm just reading programming books. It's good mental exercise. His eyes never left the screen, and that unsettling grin never left his face. My curiosity piqued, and I found ways to move closer without alerting him. When I finally saw his screen, anger surged through me. He was swiping through pictures of a young woman who looked like a model. What are you looking at? This isn't programming, I shouted, my voice cutting through the room. He jumped, nearly falling off the sofa. Don't snoop on my phone. Even spouses have boundaries. Are you seriously blaming me? You're the one acting shady. So what if I was looking at pictures? Jealous much? He smirked. His eyes darted around nervously, giving away his guilt. I'm just blowing off steam. You're overreacting. He stormed out, leaving me standing there, shaking with anger. That night marked the start of a silent war. Our home turned cold, filled with a silence that stung my ears. This went on for 2 weeks until I couldn't take it anymore. One day after work, I came home to find him waiting, a smug expression on his face. I'm done living with you. You're suffocating, a burden. I'm marrying my lover, so get out. His words should have shocked me, but they didn't. The realization of just how low he could stoop was finally clear. Is it that model you were ogling? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, and she's better than you in every way. She's my programming instructor, kind, smart, and beautiful, unlike you. He spoke, listing her merits, trying to crush me with each word. I'm serious, Julia. Just leave. You're old news. If you want me gone, fine, I said, surprisingly calm. Any love I had left had already vanished when I saw him laughing at that woman's pictures. I packed my essentials and headed out. Finally, you're being reasonable. Maybe if you'd acted this way before, things wouldn't have gotten so bad. His words meant nothing to me. I wondered only one thing. How does he think he'll survive without me? He only had $600 a month to spend freely. I paid for everything. Mortgage, bills, groceries. How did he think he would manage? But that wasn't my problem anymore. I moved into a monthly rental apartment and started my life anew. I assumed things were over between us, but as expected, the calls began. Are you kidding me? Why isn't there money in the mortgage account? The bills aren't getting paid, and the electricity's about to be cut off. His voice was frantic, tinged with panic. It was absurd, considering he had never once contributed to the mortgage. Why would I pay for a house I'm not living in? Even a child could understand that. You've become heartless, Julia. You know I can't afford it on my income. The audacity was staggering. That's your problem now. I'm not paying another cent. Just send me the divorce papers, I said, ready to hang up. His tone changed immediately, desperate and pleading. Wait, I went too far. I'm sorry, okay? I might have a new job lined up soon. Just help me out until then, please. The nerve of him to even ask. But I was ready. Fine, let's talk, but only if your lover joins us. I want to see who you're leaving me for. Of course, she'll be there, he said quickly, like a dog responding to a bell. A week later, I returned to our old house. On the couch sat the young woman from his phone, lazily playing with her hair. She barely acknowledged me when I walked in. Thanks for coming. I thought you might bail, my husband said with an arrogant grin. He had no idea what was coming. Actually, I brought someone who'd like to say a few words, I said, picking up my phone. His smile faltered as my guests walked in. His parents. Never thought I'd see you again, son, but Julia told us everything. You've been lying to this woman for a decade. Where did we go wrong? I had hired an investigator who uncovered the truth. His parents weren't dead, nor had they ever failed at any business. His father worked a regular job. His mother was a homemaker. The tale of debt and lost parents was a complete fabrication. Why are you here? He stammered, face pale. Why? Because you told Julia a sob story to cover your own failures. That's why. You always were good at spinning lies, but this, it's too much. The young woman on the couch seemed bored, twirling her hair. What's going on? This is ridiculous. I explained it all. Your successful fiancé is broke. He made up a story about debt to make me fund his lifestyle. He has nothing but $600 a month to spend. Her eyes widened as she turned to him. Wait, you're broke? You said you were an executive taking classes for career growth. Nope, just lies. And there's still a mortgage on this house, I added. Her expression turned icy. This is a joke, right? I'm not staying with a man who can't even pay his bills. No, let me explain. He started, voice shaking. Save it. I'm out. She stormed out, ignoring his desperate pleas. Well, that's our cue, Julia. Hope this helps with your closure. And you, son, don't come to us for help. You've hurt too many people. Good luck, though I doubt it'll help. They left without another glance at him. Julia, please. You're all I have left. He fell to his knees, tears streaming. His pitiful cries meant nothing now. I walked out, leaving his sobs behind. Divorce followed swiftly, and with that came his descent. Unable to pay the mortgage, the house was sold at a loss, leaving him with significant debt. He turned to loan sharks, digging himself into deeper trouble. He evaded them for a while, but his luck ran thin. Rumor had it he was still running, but with every escape, the stakes grew higher. I, on the other hand, used my share of assets to buy a new place. Life felt lighter, freer. I realized just how suffocating those years had been. Perhaps one day I'd find someone truly worth sharing my life with. I felt liberated in my new space, like a weight had finally been lifted off my shoulders. The years I spent supporting someone who only drained me were behind me. Now, every day was mine to enjoy, free from the chaos that had defined my marriage. I picked up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and even took the occasional solo trip. The silence in my house was no longer oppressive, it was peaceful. I wasn't sure if I would ever trust someone enough to marry again. But if that day came, I knew I'd be smarter, stronger, and ready. For now, I was content rebuilding my life one step at a time. As for my ex-husband, I occasionally heard updates from mutual acquaintances. His spiral into debt and desperation continued, with each story sounding worse than the last. I learned he tried to secure odd jobs, but never stuck with them long enough to make a difference. Some said he was still running from his debts, constantly looking over his shoulder. But I stopped letting those updates bother me. It wasn't my burden to bear anymore. The life I was rebuilding was no longer haunted by his shadow. Each day was a testament to the strength I found within myself, despite everything. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And for the first time in years, I felt genuinely hopeful about the future.